Okay, so we're going to look now at chapter 296, Reish Sadik Vav. That's the little packet that has number 7 on it first. The laws of Havdalah. I'm doing it this way, even though it's out of order, because we're going to close up Havdalah, and then going forward, we're going to be spending much more time on Kiddush. So that's why I'm going to do Havdalah first, close that out, and then go to the Kiddush. So we're not looking at the entire chapter, because this entire chapter is dedicated to the laws of the, right? The title of the chapter is the laws governing recitation of Havdalah over wine. So it's got lots and lots and lots of details of the whole Havdalah. We're just focusing on the specifics of making Havdalah on anything apart from wine. We did learn a little bit of these laws a while back. We talked about how you can't make Kiddush on bread, and we did a little bit, but we're going to review them now anyway, properly from the beginning. I think we learned 296. Reish Tzadik Vav. Okay, so halacha 7. Ein mavdilin ala pas, afilu ein la yayin v'leishar mashkin. One does not recite Havdalah over bread, even if he has no wine and no other drinks. Nothing is available to him. Still, no bread. This is not, in this sense, Havdalah is not compared to Kiddush, where there one may make Kiddush over bread, as we will learn. Why is that? Why is there a distinction between Havdalah and Kiddush? Havdalah and Kiddush ordinarily like packaged together, as we're learning in the Gemara. They're constantly being discussed together, right? It's derived together. You thank Hashem at the beginning of Shabbos and the end of Shabbos, right? But nonetheless, when it comes to bread, they're not the same. In that Kiddush you may recite over bread, whereas Havdalah you may not. Why? Why the distinction? Because Kiddush itself has been attached to bread, considering the fact that Kiddush must have a meal that follows Kiddush. Right? We learned these laws way earlier, that Kiddush must be done in the presence of a meal. So Kiddush itself is attached to the meal, and therefore, considering that, Kiddush, under the right circumstances or the right opinions, bread can be used for Kiddush. Havdalah, but the Havdalah, ein la in klal pas, has no relationship whatsoever to bread. And therefore, no Havdalah on bread.
Well, you also need, like, when you do Kiddush, you need to have the bread out.
Exactly. Your Kiddush has to be done. That's right. That's the point. Kiddush is connected to the meal because you have to have the meal right there, but Havdalah not, and therefore, no Havdalah on bread. Halacha ches. Sorry?
The Kiddush over the wine brings in the Shabbos.
Okay. Yeah.
And the Kiddush over the bread brings in the meal.
Well, no. Let's make it clear. You're talking about just in general making hamotzi. I'm talking about a person who has. One second. I'm talking about Shabbos, where the guy has no wine, and he literally makes Kiddush on bread. Mm-hmm. He holds the bread and says, "Yeah, my shishi." We don't do that every Shabbos. Mm-hmm. We're talking about a guy who can do that. Not just in addition to his bread, Kiddush, he's also making challah. No. He can literally hold his challah and say, and do the whole thing. If there's no wine. And the reason, as we'll learn, or depending on whatever the halacha is, we'll leave that alone. But it's a possibility. And the reason is because Kiddush is attached to a meal, whereas Havdalah is not. And therefore you couldn't hold a bread and say, you can't do that. Okay? Halacha ches. Avobat, even though one may not use bread, Mavdilin al kol mashka, one may make Havdalah on other liquids, other beverages. Shulchamar Medina, that is, quote, the wine of the region. Right? This is the Gemara we learned yesterday and before, which is in an area where the wine, they don't use grape wine. The common drink that other countries would use wine for, they use something else. So it has that prestige. So you use that for Havdalah.
So it's to be kosher.
So beer, certainly. So beer or whatever. Chutz min hamayim, with the exception of water. Even if water is the choicest drink in that region, no water for Havdalah. Now, you can only get away with using beer or other beverages, elaim kain yesh layayin, unless he has wine, then he has to make wine. He has to use wine. That's right. Only if you don't have wine, that's when you're allowed to use beer. Sha'az ein zeh hidr mitzvah, because at that point, if you use beer when you have wine available, this is not the beautiful way of making the mitzvah. In Yabdal al Sheikhar, if he's if he's going to make Havdalah on beer, or other drinks, even though it's the most choice drink of the region. Okay, so now what are we learning here? He didn't say that if you use beer, you're not fulfilling your obligation.
You're not enhancing.
He said you're not enhancing the mitzvah. So if a person used beer for Havdalah, even though he has wine right there, he will have fulfilled his obligation. But it's not the beautiful way to do the mitzvah. I should probably take this upon myself. I'm learning about it. Even though I like beer, but okay, we'll have to Havdalah, stick to the wine. Okay. If there is no wine in his house, even though there's a store down the street that sells it, you don't have to go out and buy it. Just for the sake of the beautiful mitzvah, you're not required to get out of your house and go buy the wine. It's just if the wine's in your house. If the wine's in your house, you should use, if the wine is in your home, use the wine in order to make the mitzvah beautiful. Nonetheless, it would still demonstrate how precious the mitzvah is to you if you did go get the wine. So even though you're not obligated to go down the street and buy the wine, if you did, beautiful. Wow, look how well you're treating the mitzvah. Right, so this comes back to the Gemara we learned yesterday. There's a subtlety here, right? It's like what's available, what's not available. How much effort do you want to put in? How beautiful do you want to make this mitzvah? Okay. Test halacha 9. If a person who has wine, but the cup isn't full, so now his wine is somewhat pugum, or not full pugum, right? Because pugum. Okay, let's read.
It's not.
It's wine. That's exactly. That's right. That's right. So, even if a person has a cup of wine that isn't full, but he has a full cup of beer, some other drink that's chamar medina, that is the choicest drink. So you got a full cup of whiskey. Nonetheless, better to make Havdalah on the wine and in a pugum if it isn't pugum. Pugum in the sense of pugum from drinking.
The other meaning.
That's right, as he says here in footnote 34, i.e., that no one drank from this wine. See section 182.4.7, which we read, where the Alter Rebbe discusses this factor and how to correct it. See also section 271.18.
It's easy to correct, right? You just add a drop of something.
That's right. That's right. Avalamu pugum, but if the wine is pugum, which means someone drank it, and it is pugum in such a circumstance, and it's pugum in such a way that you cannot fix it just by putting a little water. How is that? The wine has already been diluted by water perfectly. In such a fashion, if you were to pour a little water into it, Yiskalka will ruin the wine. So he has wine. So if I have a cup of wine that's pugum, I can just add a drop of water. Done. But if that drop of water is going to ruin the wine, and the wine is pugum, which means I drank from it a little bit, so now I have two choices: cup of beer or pugum wine. Then, as I told you, better use the beer that isn't pugum. Okay, so better a half cup of wine than a full cup of beer, but better a full cup of beer than a pugum cup of wine. Okay. Yud. The Noigim Medinas Enu. Medinas Elu. This we actually read this, I think, once. Noigim Medinas Enu is the custom in our region. Yeah, flip the page over. No, it's a staple to the page. Noigim Medinas Elu. It's a custom in our regions, in our country, in Ashkenazi countries. Lahakal Ahavdil, to be lenient and to make Havdalah. We're talking about Ashkenazic lands. The Moitzoi Pesach al Shecher, to use beer on Motzah Pesach. We learned this once before. Even though he has lots of wine in his house. Why? Because at that point, beer is really much more exciting than wine, because he's been drinking wine all Pesach long.
Right.
But beer is chametz. Certainly barley beer, wheat beer, rye beer, whatever. There are some beers, I guess, that could be not chametz if it's made of dates, but beer commonly is chametz. Certainly in Ashkenazic lands, where dates and figs aren't common, you're using beer and hop. You're using barley and wheat and hop grains. So he's so excited to have beer. So then we are lenient and allow people to make Havdalah on beer on Motzei Pesach. that if a person is not that excited for beer, he just doesn't like it all year round, use wine matzah Pesach. Now, even someone who really likes beer, he cannot use that for Havdalah only in a region where actually the entire country culturally treats beer with this kind of high status. As has been explained in chapter 272, which we are going to learn next. 272 discusses the laws of the wine of Kiddush. We're going to be learning there two passages, 10 and 11, where there he's going to explain for us the laws of making Kiddush, on beer, and we'll get to that, where there's going to explain what exactly that means, that this is considered prestigious in the region. That's going to come in 272. Okay, all to say that even though I like beer, I can only make Havdalah on that beer if the area treats that beer with specialty.
But there's no.
So it's not necessarily just I like it, but nobody else does.
So there's no taking into consideration personal preference. Because yesterday we did see something
Okay.
about personal preference.
If wine's not available,
Wine is not available.
then the personal preference comes in. Right?
Do they
Okay.
specify in the beer bottle if it's got hops or?
Most beer bottles will tell you what it's made from, sure.
Most beers do.
Yeah, it'll tell you what it is.
I've never even read it.
Yeah, sure.
Wine.
Barley's very common here. It's all kinds. Right. Okay. But here's the point. Regions where wine is available. Wine is local. So wine is the wine of the region. We have wine. One may not use any other drink for Havdalah, even if he likes it very much. Even if there's no wine available in the city. So that means I can't use my beer for Havdalah. Okay. Unless, one second, but actually wine doesn't grow here. In Quebec, we import it. You're right. So maybe it doesn't apply. It only applies if it grows here.
Yeah,
So maybe in Israel, you couldn't make Havdalah on beer. Right? Or Italy, or California, or actually upstate New York. Upstate New York, there's wine grows there.
So's Niagara.
Not here in Quebec, though.
No.
We don't produce wine here.
Too cold, right?
I don't understand the botany of it, but
I think it's too cold.
Doesn't speak
If it
French, doesn't
freezes,
speak
it's-
English. That's
yeah. What were we gonna say? Sorry.
So then you can't. It says even if you don't have one. So then what do?
You don't.
No, if you don't have.
It said even.
No, he said if you don't have wine, you can't. What do you do? What do you do?
You just said if you're in a place where the wine is the wine of the region.
Yeah, I'm going to إن يخلع الله شو ماشكا أف شو خمر ما يبقى إم إن
Ingam and yan.
it's a club air. Then what do? You have to wait till Monday till you get wine. Wait till Sunday to get wine. I don't know. It's a good question. What do you do?
But Sunday.
There's no wine going to be there on Sunday either, or Monday. Let's say,
Right.
guys got to fast for 2 days. I don't think so. Doesn't sound right. I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, it says it grows in the region, so the chances are that
It's got to be wine
there's
there.
got to be wine there.
Right. So what does he mean? Maybe it means you have to go out to the fields and get. So maybe there's no wine in the city right now, but you
crush it. That would be
if the wine is not in the city, maybe you got to go to the vineyards and go buy it or make it, I suppose.
Well, maybe the city.
Okay, we'll have to go.
The region.
He says here, as is explained in that source. So we'll have to wait till we see 272.
Is presently available in that town.
Right.
That
have to wait till-
exclude the city.
We'll have to wait till 272. We'll have to wait till 272 because he says commission is Barsa. No worries. Have a good day.
Good day.
Okay, let's finish up. We have 2 more halachas here to go. Let's finish it. Yud Aleph. Yom Tov Shacharit Motzei Shabbos. Yom Tov, which is on Saturday night. We learned this also once. The person now has to make both Havdalah and Kiddush on one cup, right? Because it's Saturday night, which is also Yom Tov.
Safe trip, bro.
Thank you. Have a good day. And good Shabbos.
Bye.
And he has no wine. So it's Saturday night and it's Yom Tov. So he has to do both Kiddush and Havdalah. He can make Yain, Kiddush, and Havdalah on bread. holding his loaf of bread because there's no wine, or I guess just period. Even though one may not make havdalah on bread, but this havdalah is secondary to the kiddush that he's making because he's doing kiddush and havdalah in one go. Because you're making kiddush, you're allowed to make kiddush on bread. And therefore, because the havdalah is coming as an extension of your kiddush, and kiddush is allowed to have bread, therefore there's this opinion which says you can hold your bread and do yain kiddush and havdalah man on Yom Tov that goes Saturday. Yom Tov that is Saturday night. Following? Mm-hmm. Others reject this opinion and say no. Better to do that combined kiddush and havdalah on beer or whatever other choice drink there is in that region, rather than making the havdalah go on bread. In other words, to what degree do I take this idea that the havdalah is being extended from the kiddush? Is it so extension of the kiddush to the point that I can even use bread for my havdalah now because it's coming in an extension of my kiddush on the case of Yom Tov Saturday night? Or do I say no, it's still havdalah deserves its respect, and therefore better lower the standard of your kiddush and make it on beer rather than completely obliterate your havdalah with bread?
It's interesting. Would halacha 10 apply in that case as well? At the end of
presumably,
number 10,
presumably,
wine is the only drink.
Presumably, yeah. Wow. But the Gemara, the Alter Rebbe concludes, in our countries, in the Ashkenazic lands, we follow the first opinion, which said that on a Saturday night, which is Yom Tov, a person may do the Havdalah Kiddush combined on a loaf on bread. Yeah. I don't know how often that would be. Nowadays, you don't, thank God we have so much available. There's so much wine available. If you're running out of wine, knock on your neighbor's door and get wine. In the olden days, we're like, there was a drought or something, and there was a bad season of grain, and that's it. The whole town doesn't have wine this year because I don't know, there was some hailstorm that destroyed the whole vineyard. And that's it. They're done. For us, hailstorm came in case, so ship it from somewhere else tomorrow morning. Like it's no big deal. But in the olden days, it's a very big deal. These issues come up. Today, thank God, we are plenty. Okay, quickly continuing. Oh, 1 second, answer to this question. Yubez, a person who's going from Saturday night to regular weekdays, so it's regular Saturday night, regular Motzei Shabbos, and he doesn't have not wine, and no other drinks available. And he will not be able to find any of these drinks available till the next morning. Some say that if this person, which presumably did, make havdalah in his amida, then as far as the halacha goes, he's allowed to eat right away because no wine is going to be made available for him or any other drink tonight. But someone wants to be more pious, shouldn't eat anything until he makes havdalah the next day. Opinion A. So opinion A says, look, no wine's available for you tonight. You do not have to starve yourself. Eat. And tomorrow morning, when the wine's available, you'll make havdalah. Opinion A. Opinion B. Others say, if the person expects that tomorrow a cup of wine will be made available for me, no eating anything till tomorrow morning. But if the person is not expecting any wine to come tomorrow, he knows nothing's available. We do not obligate him to fast until Havdalah. I must have read this before because that's what I thought when he answered.
Right?
Sorry?
Who didn't accept the wine.
Okay, so he fasted till the next day. Was that because he was being pious? Or is that from halacha? Right? So number one, we're learning now that's only 1 second. No, we're learning only because he was being pious. Right?
Well, it's from the Gemara, so yeah.
The other opinion says no, he was following halacha. That if he's expecting wine tomorrow, no eating.
No, but the next year he did because he knew for certain that they didn't touch wine.
The next year he did, but that he made havdalah on beer. Here he's talking about the guys didn't have beer either. Right? Didn't have anything. Okay. Finally, now what's the halacha? Halacha. As far as halacha goes, one should be stringent and follow the latter opinion, and that if he's expecting wine to come tomorrow, no eating anything until tomorrow. Unless he's a person who's weak and it's difficult for him to fast until the next morning. Yeah. And then in that case, if he's weak and it's hard for him to fast till the morning, then he may follow the first opinion, which says that if I to begin with, I'm not required to wait till the next morning. If I know wine's coming tonight, I'm allowed to eat. Okay, God willing, on Tuesday we will look at the halachas of making havdalah over beer, and that's where we're going to get the classification that we kept on referencing. This classification of what exactly qualifies as something that's considered wine of the region. That's going to come in halachah in chapter 272, two halachas there, and then two paragraphs, and then we're going to get to 271, that long-awaited chapter that discusses all the laws of Kiddush, much of which is derived from the Gemara we've been learning. Okay, wonderful day. I'm looking forward to Fabrening the whole Shabbos.
But in all cases, we could use grape juice.
Certainly, grape juice is good. Yeah.
I read somewhere they showed you 4 or 5 drinks, and one of them is Coke.
There is an opinion. Coke is
and it's soft drinks. Just
okay. Coke is a discussed issue. Whether there's different opinions on that. There's not so clear cut. Yeah, well, good day, everybody. We'll discuss it more when we get to 272.
Wait, when's our next class?
On Tuesday morning, God willing.
Tuesday? Okay.
Tuesday morning.
You're heading out soon?
I'm heading out tomorrow. I have bar mitzvah tomorrow morning, and then after bar mitzvah, I'm gone. A wonderful day, Eden.
Okay.